So thanks for taking the time to do this broadcast with me today.
Hi, Isabel. No, thank you. I mean, it's been actually the irony is it's been almost 1 year since we did our last discussion on the Maverick mind and coming to Switzerland. And it was also about a year ago that I also started Future Female Zurich.
Wow, it's been 1 year already.
I know. Can you believe it? I mean, time flies, doesn't it? It really does, because you think, whew, but I think with the entire Corona situation, it's definitely taught us a lot about time, hasn't it? And also in a strange way, time has just gone by.
Yeah, it's really crazy times.
I think we've also spent so much time online, and I think we are all drained now. I think we're all going through a transition of like, what is online? Who is online? No, stay away. I mean, I have coaches from Future Female Zurich that are basically. I'm also a little bit in that pocket where it's we want to boycott online for a bit. We want some real life. We want real people. We want real interactions. Although it's good. These conversations like now what we are having is good. But you want to start having that real I mean, slowly it's getting there, but it's also not getting there, if it makes any sense. But yeah.
I understand. Yeah, it's complicated. And then once we think, okay, things are going back and then it slows down again and we never really know what's happening. So
exactly. But thank you again for having me. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Future Females t-shirt. always about the brand. And I think I think the last time we spoke as well, we spoke about Nina Bode and the events, and unfortunately, it's like, not unfortunately, but Future Females became a brand within my brand. And now it's almost like living a double brand, which is quite funny, because the one I'm doing is pretty much the things that I love doing, but it's part of a global, sort of a global establishment that's now in 52 cities. Can you imagine? Asia, Africa, Australia, Europe, South America, North America.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's definitely
a lot. So we definitely have it going. But yeah, Isabel, I'm not going to keep you from, I know you've got a few questions to ask me. So I guess, just shoot away.
Yeah, I know for our members, basically, they may have watched our other podcast, but maybe you can tell everybody who you are, introducing yourself, because you have an interesting background, having lived in different countries as well.
Yeah, of course. So basically South African born in Cape Town, and of course, I think for me, my expat journey has more been on a personal level in terms of going to different countries, because I wanted to explore, and also because it was important for me to, just put the feelers out there, but also being the kind of maverick girl that I am, as you know. I in my early 20s, I used to get really sort of anxious and like, I need to see what's out there. And I think, you either go on there's two sides of the pole. The one is where you're really going on this whole, from company to company because you're getting transferred. And then the other is basically personal venture and then getting into what is out there in your field. And I think the one side of me has always been entrepreneur and the other side has always been corporate. And I think my journey has really sort of been a mix of both. Obviously left South Africa at the age of 24 and ventured into London. And of course, being the sort of the creator from one end and then the business mind on the other, have always chosen to sort of really put myself out there. And of course, again, in London, because my background is events and marketing and sales. So of course in London, started building my own network, and through networking, got into very interesting jobs, or in fact, one interesting position, doing PR marketing for a makeup brand. Of course, where everyone was asking, well, who is this Nina? Well, back then in my maiden name, who's this Nina Zani girl? And why must we go to this makeup brand particularly? And why must we feature them in the magazine, and et cetera, et cetera. But I was working for such a cool brand that everybody gave me the opportunity. And I think the opportunity came because I was confident, and I was maverick in the thinking of, like, I know there are massive brands out there and agencies out there working on specific brands, and I am just this young, fresh-eyed, bushy-tailed girl from South Africa, but I have confidence in what I'm selling, what I'm marketing, what I'm promoting, and everybody should know about it. And it kind of, that was my journey, and I think that sort of took me through a lot of opening the doors, of meeting interesting individuals, etc., etc. But then, of course, I moved back to South Africa, worked in corporate, Forbes, CNBC Africa, massive business events brands in South Africa, Kinetic. I was magazine editor for Playground, which was all again in the lifestyle sector, and and so my journey continued. And I think what I love about me is the mix of having the corporate experience and being open to working independently, or working, in a community, etc. And I think that's also where it's taken me today in terms of Future Female Zurich and being in Switzerland, because a part of my journey coming to Switzerland I didn't get transferred by a company. It was obviously from a personal perspective, and it's been a really big sort of transition in terms of English. Und dann plötzlich muss man auf Deutsch reden. It's like, oh God, and what, Französisch? No, that doesn't even come into play. But yes, it's my 5 years in Switzerland, and I have to admit, an interesting journey it has been. Most certainly interesting. And I think for any expat, you have to have, as they would say, balls in terms of who you are. You've got to have that courage. You've got to have that strength to say, well, just because I'm an expat, and just because I didn't start out German or went to university here, it doesn't mean that your journey ends there. Because you hear a lot of these stories, right?
Exactly. But I think it's really owning who you are. And of course, everyone wants to fit in. And I think that's the big challenge when you get into a new country, is you want to fit in, you want to cater to the local flavor, but you also have to remain yourself and know your strength. Because as I said yesterday in my workshop, you're not going to be everybody's type of employee, or you're not going to be everyone's type of freelancer or what have you. So you just have to be who you are, and the right people will show up.
100%, Isabel. And I think that's the thing with the integration in Switzerland, is it all depends who you are as an individual. And I knew when I moved here, one of the aspects was that German is not my language. So I started learning it back in South Africa. Now I'm on a level where it's pretty good, and I can really have a conversation. And I mean, I had my first German discussion on Future Females with a team member interviewing another individual. Can you imagine, this year for the first time?
Oh.
And it was a really good, for me, it was a big achievement, even though there must have been mistakes. But for me, it was, you can do it, and why cannot anybody else do it? And I think the thing with Switzerland, which is a very tricky country, and many people complain about being here, and especially in the sense when it's from the personal journey, not the business journey where you get transferred, is that when you come to a new country, of course, there are rules, there are regulations, and then you have to integrate. Systems may not necessarily be the same, but I think it's important to really take interest. What is out there? What do you have to do? And knowing that your journey is not going to be 100% perfect, and you're going to face challenges, no doubt. And then whether it's the CV, because we know CVs here a whole different thing, whether it's the language, whether it's the recognition of your certificates, etc., and about your network. And of course, you know, there's obviously a preferential status in how things go here, but I also believe at some point, depending on how you market yourself, it's got to do with, again, initiative, taking the initiative, putting extra effort into it, you have to, and building networks. And building networks as well, again, if you are open to say, hey, I'm here, people will accept and say, oh, you are here, what do you do? And it doesn't take overnight. It takes time. It takes time and effort because, you know, in the Swiss circles, they don't just let you in. And, you know, it's like, who are you? What are you doing? And, okay, I see you doing something similar to what I'm doing or you know, you know what I mean? So they're very protective, but they're also protective enough and open enough to let you in if you willing to say, I also want to learn. I also want to know what you're doing. I also want to see, can you help? And they will help and they will guide, but it takes time. And I think that's something I've also now learned over the way. But you've got to put yourself out there. I think that's the very important thing.
And then it's always about the exchange of value. So again, not coming to Switzerland thinking, I want this, I want that, and I'm looking for, you know, it's also, well, what do you bring to the table? We go back to that, you know. It's always this exchange of value. So if people see that you can bring something to the table, then I think it's all in their advantage also to let you into the circle, because you're going to bring a lot of energy. Maybe you have a network from the other countries you came from. So everyone gains in the end. And I think that's really what part of the recipe.
No, absolutely. I think, you know, Isabel, you've hit it spot on. And I think that's also a thing with my personality, for example. I'm probably one of the individuals that are very outgoing. So outgoing and confident, but yet it is still fearful, because that confidence level sort of goes down by 3 or 4, but then you have to take it step by step. And I think, and especially, you know, if I look at how I've built networks and community from a social level, on a business level, it takes time, and it also over the years, and you have to maintain those relationships. It's not easy just to obviously to have them, and you know, you've got to figure out. I mean, there's always a time and place where you can then try and see, where can I fit that into the puzzle. And I think when I get back to Future Females and Future Females Zurich as well, is that now over the last year, for example, you know, building the chapter here as, you know, as the consultant for Future Females Global, it's been very interesting.
Because, yeah, and I was going to get to that, to see why you started it, how it just fell together, you know, somehow.
Well, basically, you know, it all started with COVID. I mean, COVID, I think, a lot of people changed their perspective and thought process in COVID. And I think also coming from the events background, and I wanted to, and just before COVID hit, it was like, okay, right, I'm getting back into the industry full on. And of course, it was a shutdown. And then somehow I attended a global summit from Future Females. And I thought, oh my gosh, but this is exactly what I'm doing or would like to do as an individual in Switzerland. And there's opportunity, because I always look at, I always see opportunities, and I always look out for opportunity, because I think whether you're working or entrepreneur, looking out for opportunities are good, because you never know where you can say, hey, I've seen this. If you're in a work process, or, you know, running something yourself. And then, of course, I said, look, I would like to open up the chapter in Switzerland. And they were like, yay, great. And of course, in the first of course, in the middle of COVID, it's all about online events. So that was perfect. So it was a good creation of building then the chapter here, you know, starting it in Zurich, because essentially, again, Future Females is based around how, you know, supporting a woman in business, female entrepreneurs, having an idea, having a side hustle that they would like to nurture into something successful, but also, you know, with an offering of education. So, for example, we have the platform of the business school, which is the accelerator program. Then we have the tech hub in Kenya, and of course, UK and South Africa. And then the other element being obviously our Female Founders Club, which is global. All of this is all global programs, which is really, really nice. And I thought this is exactly where I need to be. And of course, another element to it is that it's got a South African aspect, because one of the founders is South African. So of course it played home, and I thought, oh, a little bit of home, but still being in Switzerland and having to then showcase my talent and what I can do. And let's see what I can actually take out with this brand and build it to the next level. And I think the most interesting aspect is exactly that: building a network and building a community. And who are you? What are you offering us as value? And I think the add values that I bring from the global perspective is something that obviously was introduced, but from our events, which are workshop based and masterclasses based on your entrepreneur journey. And of course, looking at female entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs as a whole. I thought, what a great offering. And of course, there are lots of, I've noticed in Switzerland, there's loads more, and there have been all these female business networks, some of them quite established, maybe one or two or three, and then there are a lot of new ones. But having to have infiltrated into these communities saying, hey, let's collaborate together. We're on a similar journey. You might be the Swiss aspect of it, but I'm coming from a whole different aspect, and we've got amazing offerings. All of them really afraid, wanting to connect. And you think, but why are you afraid? They are so protective of what they do, some of them. And you think, but this is not, you're saying one thing on your website, collaboration, we want to work with other entrepreneurs. And then you say, but hey, let's do this together, because there's aspects of us where we can help and we can nurture one another. No go. But then times have changed, and suddenly everyone is starting to slowly seeing that, hey, no one is an island, and together, if we can cross-pollinate information, events, our offerings, we can achieve so much more. When you look at the bigger picture of it all.
Exactly. It's the strength of the group.
Because essentially, I think, like I said, nobody's an island. And I think when you're building communities, when you're building networks, it's not about the 20 people you have inside. Networking is meaning you are connecting. Network means that you are basically saying, what is your offering? Oh, we have something similar. Oh, we have something completely the opposite. Let's open it up, because there are different people within our networks. And if we can take the mindset of understanding that we all have our own unique strength and power in what it is that we are offering, woohoo, we all will get one step further, because there's a big challenge about, especially in the female entrepreneur space, is that where's the funding for all female entrepreneurs? Is it just going into the tech and digital space? But what about everybody else? Why is everybody else being on the outside? And why are these communities being on the outside rather than saying, well, let's all think together? Let's all think together. Let's not all just be competitive in our little space because we want to be the top. And I think that's a very Swiss thing, right? Being number one.
Well, I think also everyone wants to be number one. So it's like also sometimes seeing other initiatives as being competition rather than complement to what you offer. So I don't think every single group is doing the same thing, because some groups, again, will be more like tech oriented, and other groups may be more not for profit and like international organization, NGO type. So everyone has a different aspect, I think, and very few are actually competing. On the opposite, I think there's really some common things that could be put together, like doing events together, or because in the end, it's all about, as you said, mixing information so that for the members, it's maximum exposure.
Exactly.
Which is also what I do with my business and my group. It's why I have my offering of what I have, but then bringing people like you, it's like, oh, great. There's a group for women entrepreneurs in Zurich, and maybe someone wants to go more towards that direction, and that's going to be value for them and a complement to what I do. And so really it's identifying, the specialists in different things. So who's a specialist in Geneva? Who's a specialist in Zurich?
Exactly.
And trying to find, so I'm thinking for the for the person who's joining those initiatives, it's like, okay, let me kind of see what's out there. So we're bringing them the buffet, basically, and then they can choose from the buffet what fits them, and they can join and learn about what's going on in the Swiss market. So I'm all for exposing or showing, everything that's going on in Switzerland is really what I do. I'm more of a facilitator, so to say, of information, and then people can choose what fits them and find their proper channels.
But you see, this is what I love what you do, Isabel, because that's exactly it. I think, and that's exactly the mindset I have. I don't believe in this silo type of working. And I know we've got all the various associations that obviously geared towards specific elements, tech, digital, females, that sort of thing. But at the same time, when I'm talking about these communities who are working in these silos because they're competing, it is really then more so also then it's great to have competition, fantastic. But it's also good, like we said, have an open mind that our networks can learn from one another. We can have a buffet of information, because if you are going to eat the same pie if you've baked a big pie and that pie you've nurtured it, that is so huge, and you eat your pie every single day, you're going to have no pie left. And then suddenly you're going to go, well, what about all these other pies? Oh, but now these other pies, sorry, you ate your own pie. You didn't want to share with us. You know what I mean? It's really about, open up. Let's open up. And we had the roundtable discussion a few weeks ago, and I was part of this discussion where I said, why is it we don't have an umbrella for everybody that can actually just go to? So for them, so if you were all female entrepreneurs, female founders, female communities, we have an umbrella source in Switzerland where we all are linked to, but there's a navigation, on a monthly basis. We feed information off each other. We share information to each other. And everyone was like, oh, this is a really great idea. Yeah. And of course, there are the different groups and associations, and these associations should really support the bigger picture so that everybody then has a piece of that pie, for example, not just, only to that because they've received an award. What about everybody else is trying to achieve something, Exactly. So it's a very interesting avenue in terms of building communities. But building communities in Switzerland generally is when you have good content, when you are when you're proactive, when you're sharing, when you're linking, when you're cross-pollinating the information, but hey, I know another group, you should go there. People build trust, and I think people love trust. When you can build trust in what you're offering, then of course it also builds your stance within the space. And I think it's fun to build communities, it's hard to build communities, and when you do it alone, great. When you have a team, fantastic. And I'm lucky to have, part of the Future Female structure is that we obviously have a lot of volunteers who are interested in business, who are interested in entrepreneurship, and they obviously bring their skill sets too. And we build together, the community in that really sort of creative, fun, inclusive way. And I think it makes it then a little bit easier. But yes, I think, but the community should be a little bit more open in terms of let's collaborate, let's see what are our similarities and where are we not similar, and then let's see what we bring to everybody and say, hello, everybody, here's the platform,
Exactly, and you can pick and choose what you want to do. And so I just have a question that popped up through my head, and I'm not sure there's a perfect reply for it, but what I see, because I work with individuals who are more in the market to look for a job, and men and women. What I see is that there's a lot of communities, I think, for founders, for business owners, entrepreneurship, etc. Now, a lot of people actually, they want a job with a company as being an employee. So do you think those kinds of clubs would actually be fit for them, or would it be a better idea maybe to go in different types of communities if you're really out there to look for a job, but you're not really an entrepreneur or a founder?
Well, I think, if you, a job seeker. The funny thing is, there's a lot of successful startups, and there's a lot of startups that are choosing to employ, obviously, perhaps not full-time, perhaps part-time, or individuals with experience, on a temporary basis, for example. And I think it's good, because networking is networking. And here's the thing, there's a whole, in this whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship, the whole startup scene, there's lots going on. And joining these kind of communities, it could also be another way of injecting or inspiring you to think, hey, maybe there's something I would like to do myself as an entrepreneur, because sometimes you've always, we all have entrepreneurial spirit in us. And when you've come from a corporate background, or you've either been in business development or sales or marketing or something of the sort, you never know what idea you could bring to the market. And I think, joining these kind of communities is great, because they, for example, I look at Future Females. And our focus is really based education. So education in helping entrepreneurs build success within their business. So from starting out to end process. And a lot of our workshops are then based around trainings. We really do trainings. It's not like, and it really is about one-on-one trainings with the individuals that join the workshops. And I'm very specific about it, because I come from business events. And when I'm saying training, so I know corporate trainings can be quite tough in terms of boring and langweilig, but I think for us, we try to make it fun and interesting and interactive, so that when you're walking away out of our masterclasses, whether you work in corporate or whether you're an entrepreneur, you learn, and you will walk away with good knowledge and good education from professionals in the industries that are actually making a mark, and especially from our coaches. And and a lot of them are quite, they're worldwide and some local, and they are renowned. And for the individual who is job seeking, absolutely, this is your space. Go and see what's happening out there. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new dimension, because you open up yourself by networking by different individuals. You have no idea who they know. It is it's a spider net effect. You're branching out. And then there's another funny thing is, like, we've got a new partner called Board Owl, for example. And let's just say you are a very experienced CEO or experienced professional in their field, manager level, and you decide, hey, maybe I should figure out if I ever want to be part of an external board. Have you ever thought of being an external board member? I think that was great. There's all these platforms where you could possibly get involved, looking at opportunities. And just for example, mentioning this Board Owl is that if you were looking for a job, now you say you don't have a job, but you have this wealth of experience. Board Owl represents startups, again, startup and SMEs. And these individuals are always looking for individuals who have expertise. Perhaps that's also a space for you as the individual, and say, hey, maybe I'll become a member. Maybe I will sign up, for example. So you always need to think outside the box, and you always need to not just think, let's go straight in for the kill. And I think what's happening also now in the workspace is changing. Lots of remote jobs, they're looking for lots more individuals with entrepreneurial mindset, ideas, work ethic. So you need to be able to be, as I say, agile. Flexible.
Exactly. And I think
be flexible. Exactly. And, if you need to learn, there's lots of trainings. Open your ups up for training, because I think in these sort of communities that are out there, you can learn so much, because they're offering courses. Like we offer courses, we offer coaching. There's all these things that are out there, and we're connecting with everybody. So I think we are living in such a different age where you can be a part of everything, and and don't be afraid to try new things, because it's where we're at.
Exactly. I think it's to drop the idea of I'm going to look for a job the same way. I call that the 20th century way,
Yeah.
Where you just send your resume online, hope and pray, and look for that stable job in a stable corporate structure. I mean, those kinds of things become less and less the case. I think now we're in the multi-jobs, multi-gigs, maybe having
and I think and I think for anyone who's probably looking, and, people will say, oh, she's crazy, nobody lets you in. Just go to the company. If you see a company you like, I think just now, it's more personal approach. I prefer seeing somebody personal. And if I had to see, it's like they say, what do they call the Bewerbung, spontan Bewerbung? You just go, or you just whatever. Do that now, especially now in this space. Go to the company. Go knock on their door and say, hey, listen, I want to go to HR. I want to see what's happening here,
Well, again, the bold and non-conventional approach is probably better than just trying to do what everyone else does, which is not
exactly
working.
Everyone is sending a CV, and what's happening as well, and I've been reading a lot about it, that organizations are looking for people who are slightly more off the cuff, because you cannot. No ways do they want somebody who's just going to sit behind the computer. Oh, yes, of course. Let me, of course, digital, SEO, whatever. But when you're doing a bit more personal approach to businesses, to people, to understanding what's out there, your mindset is kind of fresh. Yes. Okay. How can I connect? Where? I see your brand here. Why haven't I seen you there? I've got a community, I have a network, we can do this, we can cross-pollinate. I think you need we all have to be creative and put yourself out there. And when not, why not try something online? Why not start being an entrepreneur on the side? It's just, I think there's so much to do, and stop thinking about, I think a lot of people are thinking, yes, we want to make money. Of course, we need money to live, of course. But at the same time, you also want to have happiness. I think after COVID, I feel a lot more relaxed because I'm not so stressed about, sometimes I'm stressed with Future Females because, we have lots of things to complete, but I don't feel it's like the be all and end all if something is not done right now.
And we have to be patient with ourselves too.
Exactly.
I think one thing we learned through this pandemic is that we can't control everything. A lot of people probably thought, oh, I have this career and this is where I'm going to go and all these ideas. And then boom, something comes and breaks it for you.
No,
so it's like changing all your perspectives and you have to go back to school.
Absolutely. Can I tell you, Isabel, I'm very surprised. I'm sitting here this morning. I had my second vaccination last Saturday. Yeah. I said, I will not get ill. I'll be fine. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I've got a good immune system. It knocked me. Until yesterday, I thought I was literally going to die. I woke up this morning, perfectly fine.
So you went through a period of...
No, it was not funny. And I thought, oh my goodness, imagine, I cannot imagine people who had the real COVID. This is just the second vaccination. I cannot imagine individuals who had the real COVID and had to endure this for months and months and months on end. Yeah, I had it because, your body had to kind of kickstart back into mode to be able to fight against this virus. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to do this morning. I was like, because yesterday morning I woke up, I'm perfectly fine. And I was like, I'm not perfectly fine. Boom. And then I woke up this morning perfectly. And actually, I'm sitting here now. It's a few hours. I'm fine. But this is COVID. But this is COVID. This is the whole COVID experience. It's taking us out of our comfort zone. It's taking us back to being normal, being a person of understanding, knowing that life is so short and there's opportunities. If you see them, you take them. Take a risk, make the most of it, learn from it, grow from it, and put yourself out there.
It's a great advice you're giving. Now, as I was listening to you, I thought, okay, this is fantastic for women, Future Females, everything. What about if you're a man?
No, but this is exactly it. I think, I know Future Females, obviously when I think of Future Females, the global brand, it was started predominantly, obviously, in the Africa sector in the beginning, because of course there, as you can imagine, lots of disadvantaged women. But more so, it was not just aimed at disadvantaged women, it was aimed at all females alike and all entrepreneurs. Obviously, a big main focus on women, because it's, women in Africa, nobody, you're not educated, you're not allowed to work. There's a lot of stigma and a lot of cultural differences in terms of of being independent as a woman in Africa, South Africa, for a start. And Future Females saw the opportunity of actually, hey, let's create a program, let's get women involved, and let's slowly start to obviously inspire women to be able to start their own business. And of course, Lauren Dallas, who started Future Females, this was her journey many years ago, and it's now 4 years later, and she's done pretty well with Serena Bezuidenhout, who's the co-founder. And of course, the idea was to help women, and they've done amazing work, because a lot of these women have taught themselves and have grown their online businesses, successful online businesses. Our accelerator program has gone global. We've graduated individuals in Europe, US, Africa, Asia, you name it. We've done quite a lot. And of course, there's the tech hub side too as well for women in the tech sector. But we've also said it's for everybody. It's inclusivity. So it doesn't matter who you are. And I'm not talking about, I hate the word gender, because we are all inclusive. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. We're saying, come and join us, come and talk. And we have male panelists, we have males entrepreneurs that's in our space. And again, in Switzerland, it's the same thing. Of course, one of our coaches is a male, Mario Lanzarotti. He's a great guy. He's a business coach. He's really hands-on. I love him. And he's also part of our actually global business school program. But we're saying we welcome everybody, because we're not like, oh, pro-feminist, only women. Oh, come on. Because us women have great ideas. A male can bring a different perspective into that, and we can all learn from each other. So I think that's important.
I think really, whenever I try to find out, there's other groups in Switzerland where they're the same thing. They're like, if you're a man, you can come as well. So I think it's really an important message that when I work again with people who are trying to see what's out there, expand, to actually consider even women groups, because most of them will include also men for different things, and it's also a great way. And actually, when you're in a community where maybe there's less competition between men or what have you, it could be interesting for you to become this go-to person easily in that group. So I think to consider all groups again is important.
Exactly. And I think specific, for example, I mean, in Future Females, for example, Future Female Zurich, or Future Female Switzerland, so to speak, is that we are open to have, and actually I think that is probably a call to action for anyone, any male who would like to open a Geneva chapter of Future Females. And actually, it will be very interesting, and male-led would be quite interesting, because we're looking for new cities to open up. We were in Basel, and then Basel ended because the person had to leave. But of course, we actually have Zurich, which is the main city. Then we have Lausanne. And I think Geneva would be a good city to have maybe a French-speaking male who's all about female empowerment, but also entrepreneur empowerment. I think, why not become a consultant and ambassador for the brand, or an ambassador for the brand, and be part of our sort of global group. I think that would be amazing. I would love to have a male counterpart, actually, because it'll be really good.
It will bring the balance, in terms of ideas.
Exactly. And I think it's got to be the element of supporting women, but it's also got to be an element of supporting all, but also bringing in a different mindset. And I think that's quite exciting, So
it's good to know. So you're looking for someone for Geneva chapter. So
yeah, it would be great to have someone start the Geneva chapter, especially for Future Females as a male. I think that would be amazing. And why not? Because it will be revolutionary for us for Future Female Switzerland. The future is male, right?
Interesting concept.
When you think about it, female, male, female. So yeah. So it will be it will be a revolution for us, because it's a lot of exciting things that we are busy discussing at the moment. And especially obviously with our programs that we are doing. And so if you want to be a future female representative in Switzerland, that would be great for our Geneva chapter. That would be amazing. That would
That's
be
a nice call
fantastic.
to action.
That would be fantastic.
Opportunity.
Absolutely. Because that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So what do you see as the pros and cons of building community in Switzerland? Some things maybe you found easier, others that are really challenging.
Yes, I mean, Isabel, like I mentioned earlier, I think it really has to do with the fact that, it's letting you in. I think a lot of the communities are afraid. I don't know what they're afraid of, to be fair, because there's one element they want to achieve and be their number one for themselves. And they don't necessarily want to link up with other communities. And but then the pros out of that is that if we all linked up, we all share what our strengths are. We all share cool information, and we all get to the next level of what it is that we are doing. We, for example, have now slowly started building our new community structure with very prominent brands. Fem Up Switzerland, they're very new, they're very young, and they're also same vision as Future Females, also with their own unique element to it. We are connecting with brands like female founders, and again, it's basically also the same vision of what we have, supporting all female founders within the Swiss ecosystem, but also all entrepreneurs, and I think it's important because, again, I bring it back to nobody's an island, why must we work in silos? I remember back in the old days, how we used to only work, marketing works together, sales works together, but hang on, marketing and sales need to work together, because what the hell, you know what I mean? It's like we're not working back in the 80s anymore, so this is, I think this is the fun, exciting thing with entrepreneurship is, again, transparency. If you cannot have open transparency, and it's like a business document, right? It's like that ecosystem of if we all online, we're working in a world online where we can all see the information, right? So why not just say, hey, okay, we all have our unique aspects, but we can all learn from each other. So this is what we are doing. Look at this transparent label in between. Woohoo. But we don't obviously have to share all our secrets, do we? We can still keep them to ourselves, but we can all have a transparency to a certain degree where we all uplifting each other. And that's actually one of the aims that I'm hoping that we as Future Females, together with some other massive brands in Switzerland, can achieve in time to come. Because of course, there's a big label on the female founders, but it's also female communities and also just entrepreneurs as a whole. And I think especially when you're education based, especially when you've got these programs in place, and especially when you all when you're hosting events, and and especially, where do you learn the best from those who have already achieved the top?
And also, I think what you're doing, a lot of what you're doing is bringing empowerment to individuals, and the more empowered people are, then it's also beneficial for the ecosystem at large.
100%.
You need to have people who think like this. Exactly. So create innovation. Everyone talks about we need more innovation. We need to be innovative. Well, let's go back to creating the type of minds to support this.
Exactly.
No one is just going to be innovative just like that. We need to create the system, create the exchanges so that people can be empowered, more autonomous, and then you will have more innovation.
100%. And another thing that I want to mention to that innovative part is that, there's also a lot of talk of, if you come from a Swiss university, if you are Swiss graduated as an entrepreneur, okay, hang on. So what's happening with all the other? So if you're an expert entrepreneur, you don't fit into the system. It's like, hello, open up. It's got to open up the system. You can't just say, well, if you're Swiss, but how about if you are based in Switzerland and you come from these various sections and you're entrepreneur and we all inclusive, I find that so funny, because that's like, So what's the point? So you are kind of in one way saying we want to be inclusive, but we're not really saying we want to be inclusive, you know? But that's what I'm saying. Everyone's afraid people are going to steal ideas. But it's like, hang on, yeah, we all have different ideas. That's perfect. But if you support each other, then nobody will steal ideas. You'll be more supportive of their ideas, and you will get exactly. The brain starts thinking, they've done that. Okay, we've got something similar, but how can we change this? You know?
Well, idea is nothing. Implementation is everything. Everyone,
you know, and that's why they've set up all these programs to help entrepreneurs, to help them showcase what it is that they have, not just digitally in tech, but what about everything? Who wants to start an online business, offline business, clothing, food? You know, there's lots of different aspects to it. You know, so let's not just talk the talk on paper and on Werbungen. Let's walk the walk together. You know. And that's
again bringing strengths together, because someone who's a local will know the local flavor and understand, you know, how things get done locally. But the person who is maybe experienced from abroad can bring that perspective on, you know, how to make it work. So the two brains together can find the product that works on the Swiss market.
Exactly. You all have different ideas and visions that you can see. How does this vision that we're all in the same, and we all have different passions. We all have different elements that can make it sparkle, you know what I mean? So that's exciting, you know, and that's positive, and that fuels the brain even more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just listening to you, it's very engaging. It's like, oh yeah.
No, I know. Listen, it's not a straight-laced journey. It's not a straight path. But I think there's got to be an openness, and there's got to be say, you know what, we welcome this and we choose to want to, you know what I mean? And then if you look at there's some amazing networks globally, you know, when you look at them and what they've implemented. And again, we're living in a lifetime of global. We're not, you know, of course there's Switzerland, but there's also global. I mean, I look at Future Females, 52 cities, maybe more. We've gone all over Europe. You know, it's just like amazing what these girls have achieved. A lot of hard work. And, you know, I think all of it is connecting, you know, it's all connecting. And look at the opportunities. I look at Future Females, for example, and I think if I'm a global brand who support entrepreneurs, business, all of these things, you're looking at, for example, a brand like Future Females, what a great opportunity for you to get involved. You know,
for a lot of people who are just like, what's next? You know,
what's next? Future Females is next. You know, look at where they are, and then for anybody else that you're connected to, you're basically saying, "But hey, there's that. Hey, there's this." You know, because people want to expand, and it's not easy to expand. You can't just get into other territories just like that. You know. So I think it's you know, there's a lot of learnings and there's a lot of growth aspects, but it's positive. You know, it's all about collaboration, number one. Transparency, number two. Including people, number three. And learning.
So you talked about, I picked up, so you explained how you network basically in Zurich. And were you able to build some partnerships? You talked about building local.
Yeah, we are now slowly, you know, because I think, you know, now because of the last year, I've been knocking on lots of doors. Hey, because we've been hosting events, you know, every month, offline, online, etc. And we've created affiliate partners where we say, look, we've got these events happening. If you promote it through your networks, you get a percentage off, and you also get a percentage back, for example, on the ticket pricing, which is, it may not be much, but we're just saying thank you. A lot of them went, sorry, we don't do that. And I thought, okay. But we continue to do what we do. And then we've had some themed events, because we have themed events planned globally, which is on the same level. And then suddenly I see some of these networks also doing similar themed events. And you go, that's kind of funny, isn't it? But, you know, you kind of laugh. You know, of course, a lot of this been a lot. I think there's a lot of people looking at what we are doing, and we're looking at a lot of what people are doing, but we carry on doing what we are doing, you know. And but it's taken a while, because a lot of people just said, no, sorry, we don't want to collaborate. Sorry, we don't do partnerships. And you know, but we've had from the beginning, we worked with brands like WeSpace. Unfortunately, WeSpace is no longer a co-working space. But that was one of our great partners that we loved working with, actually. And then, of course, the rest was all from personal, connecting with people, writing people. And, I tend to do that. I write individuals, I see their profiles on our Instagram, I connect with them, I say, listen, I'd like to feature you, I'd like to talk to you, I'd like to do an interview or a straight talk, and I research the brands. And, but also we've had to build the trust a little bit in what we do and what we produce, but it's a lot of hard work. It doesn't just happen overnight, And, of course, there's been sort of cross watching where brands are watching us, we are watching them. And then this now slowly we all have the same, what they've realized, we are not an island, but we need to collaborate. And there's been some discussions being held, like now I said, FEMOP is a partner. Board Isle, of course, is a bit more of a strategic business partnership, where they are obviously, again, looking into the entrepreneur space and looking from a cross-pollination view, both at the individual and both at the company, who needs to find someone someone who would like to be on a board seat, for example. And then there's more partnerships coming now. And because now slowly everyone's starting to realize we need to work together. And together, even though if I'm creating an accelerator program or you creating an accelerator program, we will do it differently because we have different ideas and visions of what we're creating, but we are giving opportunities to everybody to learn, to grow, and be successful in the end of what they need to do. But then you can also fall back into a community where you can learn from. And I think that's what I love about Future Females, because we have our Founders Club. So you can join this, our community, and as an entrepreneur, you can learn and find the masterclasses to help you through your journey ongoing after you've done one of our accelerator programs, for example. And of course, now we're obviously looking at doing the Swiss version of it. Very exciting. But more to be revealed on that end. But yes, it's interesting.
Well, I'm sure people will check out the link to your Future Female Zurich. Definitely interesting. So what would be one or two tips from you to build a successful and motivating career nowadays, at this stage?
Authenticity. Be authentic.
Just be yourself.
I've always tried to be my authentic self in every step of my journey. Be authentic. If people don't like your authenticity, then you're not meant to be there, I always say. Put yourself out there, because if you put yourself out there, opportunities get presented to you. And if you see an opportunity, say, why not? Because if you don't do it, you're not going to know. And I think, again, don't be afraid to step out of that comfort zone. I think if you're going to stick to what you're going to kind of be then, stuck in your own little bubble, your own world, which is not going to take you much anyway. You've got to open that mindset. Mindset is such a big thing, and I think people fear a lot of things. I mean, we all have our own fears. We all know our capabilities, our strengths, our weaknesses. But we need to open the mindset and say, it's okay. Today I'll go left. If I didn't like left, I'll try right. Maybe I'll go backwards. Maybe I'll do the other backward foot. Maybe I'll stay in the middle. Maybe I'll jump higher. But you have to have that open mindset, because we're living in a world of be open. And if it doesn't work out, don't freak out.
There will be, as I say, another opportunity will come.
Because I absolutely believe, and manifestation, I have a vision of where I'd like to be with Future Females. I have a vision of what I'd like to accomplish with my team, with my partners that I create, because I want everybody that I'm building a relationship with, that we together in our various little communities, that we can all be successful, that we can all create and make change in this whole journey that we're on, especially in the female founders aspect, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of building a business, or just being part of a community where you feel you're doing good, And I think we all learn from each other, and we all can create the innovation and ideas from being in a larger open space of transparency, of seeing, okay, they're doing that, we're doing this, X is doing Y, oh, this is fantastic, oh, we still have room for this. there's got to be that. Because when you inspire down the chain, that's just exciting.
Exactly. And that's
It's
really
really
what
exciting. And, and it gives opportunity and room and belief to say, hey, this person has done amazing. That community has done amazing, and you build that confidence together. And, oh, great, she's Swiss. Oh, that's an expat group that's done well, and whatever the case may be, So,
yeah,
yeah.
we're inspiring for the community at large. So you bring in your knowledge and then you inspire the community at large. So that's
No, 100%. And I think there's lots that we can learn from, and there's lots we can all achieve the best. And we can help those who are struggling, because sometimes maybe you are the mother who's starting a new business and you go, oh God, oh shit, I don't have an app. Oh, maybe I have a knitting business, but I want to be successful in it. Maybe I want to reach just the people in Switzerland, and maybe I want to go global. How do I do this? Where do I start? How do I do the PR, the marketing, the building the brand, the financing? These are all little things that we all need to know, Which community is good for me? Do I join different ones? Or if I just join the one, are they going to go, oh God, if you join here, you don't go anywhere else? You know what I mean?
So learning how to go in, basically, again, we go back to knowing the go-to places and go-to people for your particular project.
Absolutely, Isabel. I mean, I think we in such a rife time of learning and continuous learning. And I think that's one thing as well. Just continue to grow yourself.
That's fantastic to end this broadcast. To continue improving yourself and learning is definitely what it's about. You're always in a stage of learning more and growing your skills.
I know. This has been so great to chat with you. I love talking to you. And you do some great stuff. And actually, we need to talk about you in Future Females, actually, since you are in Geneva, about because I see you've got the C Club, you've got all these amazing things that you do. And again, there's a lot of networking that can be done here, because I've realized a few weeks ago when I started reading, because, it's also another thing, I think, just to pause before we end this, is that the internet has become a little bit whitewashed. There's so much information. And, when we're all running and suddenly with the restrictions lowering down, everyone wants to get out, but we are being whitewashed. I can't even think of doing another Instagram post, for example, not because because it's just too much there, but we know that we have to do it. And but you're doing some very cool stuff, and I really want to chat with you about that on Straight Talk, and we will have a Straight Talk discussion, and just explain exactly it is what you do and why you do what you do, and also connect you with some of the brands that I work with, because I think there's opportunity for you to also have a say in that. You see?
That would be fantastic.
And you see, this is again business connecting.
Exactly. That sounds great. And I like the fact that we connected somehow. And
I know, how funny. So an ex-colleague, my ex-colleague from Forbes.
Yes.
How funny is that? Such a small world.
It's very small.
Such a small world. I know. Very, very small world. But
that's why I tell people, never underestimate any contacts, because you never know where the next opportunity will come from. It could be some odd person you met 10 years ago that's going to introduce you to someone to be relevant. So not any contact to undermine. And sometimes people think too much, well, I need new contacts. And they're not nurturing the contacts they already have, which
I know.
The easiest way to get started in networking is already look at what you have, which most people do have a lot of contacts between LinkedIn and their contacts on their phone. And so if they were to check there first, they probably notice there's a lot of gold mine there.
No, I know you have to. And I mean, look, I know it's a lot of hard work, because we all have things going on. And, I also try. I mean, I think something I try and do is I do try and establish, I've got so many LinkedIn connections that I try and sometimes, build that one-on-one connection with an individual. And sometimes it takes time. And sometimes I've connected with people a year ago, and then a year later, I'm like, oh, by the way, we've been connected for the last year, but can we have a chat? And I think that becomes invaluable. And if they say yes, and there's interesting opportunities, then you can do things together. But I mean, I think it becomes harder because everybody's out for something and everybody wants something. And it's just making sure that the time is right, and then it all works.
Well, that's fantastic to listen to you.
Thank you,
great.
Isabel.
We did this intervention today, this talk. I think it's going to bring a lot of positive vibe to the communities out there.
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic. And I have to say, I'm looking forward to working with all the other communities in Switzerland, because I think, whether they are Swiss or not, I think we can all achieve some amazing things together.
That's great.